What's going on, Tight Nation? Thank you for tuning into the Two Tone Zone. I am your host, Mr. Two Tone. And tonight it's just Mark and I holding it down. The building. Mark's a good friend of the Two Tone Zone. If you check out the recent shows, he's been here giving his thoughts, his opinions, and just sharing his perspective and showing his passion and his love and support for these Tennessee Titans. So I'm going to go ahead and let Mark go and say what up to y'all, man.
How's it going, Titans Nation? Getting ready for week 2.
Week 2, man, ready to go. Week 1's behind us. Now we're in a situation where we're a 6.5 point underdog. Is that right? Is that still where it's at? Vegas?
Last I saw it was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got you. And Vegas is always trying to make some money. That's their goal, right? They want to make some money. They want to cause a little controversy. They want to cause a little doubt. But at the end of the day, man, we got to go out there and take care of business. Like there's no other way around it.
No, absolutely. We got to get in there and find a way to get a win, whatever it takes, man. We can't afford to go down 0-2. AFC is still pretty tough, and you don't want to get in the hole too early.
Man, dude, you are not lying when you make that statement. The AFC is stacked. And so to see teams like Baltimore be 0-1 right now, you see teams Buffalo, Cleveland, it kind of makes you a little more at ease about the situation, but still – we know that it's any given Sunday. Every Sunday is going to be different than the last. The next game is bigger than the last game we just played. So we have a juggernaut in Russell Wilson, and I'm not saying his stature, his physique, because we all know he's not that big of a guy, but we all know how big of an impact he can have on a football game.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Wilson is he's probably a top 5 quarterback in this league still with the things that he does and the way that he creates and everything else, especially given the fact that their line isn't very good and he continues to just dominate every single game. It's very impressive to watch.
Cool. Man, I just hope the game doesn't boil down to a field goal.
You and me both, man. You and me both. We can't figure out our kicking problems, and it seems like it's getting worse every week. Kicker by committee, picking guys up off the street. At some point, something's got to stick, but you don't want to get in a situation where you're getting down to a field goal at the end of the game.
Big facts, man. It's like a migraine that just won't go away for us. You know what I mean? We keep trying to take a couple ibuprofens, trying to alleviate the pain a little bit, trying to put a Band-Aid on the wound a little bit just to stop the bleeding, but we got to solve the problem, right? So hopefully God is on our side right now, and he's definitely kicking for Randy Bullock tomorrow, when and if he has to come out there. I hope he's just kicking extra points. I don't want to see him kicking field goals. If we get in the red zone, we need to capitalize on that and take care of business.
Yeah, we gotta have touchdowns. We can't. Going up against Russ and their high-powered offense as well, you can't afford too many field goals out there.
Nah, man, you're not lying once again. So now we're starting to talk about the Seahawks offense, not just Russell Wilson. We're talking about weapons. Like, what's in that arsenal? You know what I mean? What is Pete Carroll and his staff having stock for us? Like what's going to happen? You know what I mean? You have an underrated receiver in Tyler Lockett. Right, you and I talked about this last week briefly.
He's the most underrated receiver in football, in my opinion, and why he still doesn't get respect, not only from fans but just around the league. It just blows my mind. He just continues to go out there and put in work and doesn't complain about it, doesn't say anything. He just picks his feet up and goes the next week, and he's a problem every week.
Man, don't I know it? He had 4 catches last week for 100 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
I mean, if you want to put it out on an average, that's 25 yards per catch, right? So that's 4 X plays,
right,
from one person,
man.
And we cannot forget about DK Metcalf. Who's the number 1 in your opinion? Who's the number 1 receiver over there? Because I think it kind of just varies depending on the week.
I mean, I think they try to line up DK as that number 1, but I don't know. I don't think it. To them it matters a whole lot. Especially when they're out there just doing their thing, and I don't think they care really one way or the other who's the 1 and who's the 2 and all that. So
I mean, when you're able to be versatile like that, you're able to. You can line any one of those guys up in 1, 2, 3, a slot, whatever. You can line them up somewhere. You know what I'm saying? And definitely have success running those type of versatile plays. So my next question for you is: now we're talking about Tyler Lockett, we're talking about DK Metcalf. Everett, the tight end, he can honestly play receiver. if you ask me. Everett's like he's like one of those hybrid kind of tight ends, and he's able to make the big catches. You know what I mean? And we all know how important it is to have a solid tight end in the red zone, and that's where he's gonna be most effective in his position and in his right. So we have to take care of business. And I know you talked about the other day. We were talking about us kind of having a little bit of doubt on us being actually able to win this game on Sunday. Let's talk about that real quick before I start to talk about who we're going to match up where, if we're Shane Bowen or if we're Todd Downing, how we're going to approach things. Let's talk about man, I lost my train of thought.
I'm certainly nervous about this game, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I think the biggest concern is still the secondary. You know, when you have both DK and Lockett, it's very, very tough to match up against, regardless of who you are.
Right.
So now you got to shut down not one but two guys and try and play it that way. You know, it's very tough. And then going up into Seattle, it's their first game with fans in almost 2 years. You know, they're going to be – it's already hard to play there as it is. They're going to be even crazier than normal, I would imagine. You know, and considering we had so many areas that we needed improvement on after last week, I just wonder if we can fix them all that quickly. We want to see improvement for sure. Fortunately, I think we're in a weak enough division that if we do slip up and lose this game, we'll be able to bounce back. But it's gonna be tough tomorrow.
No, absolutely. It's gonna be a battle of two gritty teams. I think we all play blue collar type of football. If you want to, kind of put the comparison on that, I think where there's a lot of similarities with how we approach the game. And just Chris Carson in itself, I know we have Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry's not Chris Carson, and Chris Carson's not Derrick Henry, but Chris Carson he's a powerful back. He's a powerful back, and if you don't tackle him, if you don't wrap up, and if you don't finish the play, and the guys aren't swarming around him and not stop until the whistle blows, we're gonna have a problem with that because he has the ability to turn a negative play to a positive. And I watched that just in the film sessions that I was having by myself down here in the two-tone zone, just watching film. That guy, he's low key sneaky quick, like with his ability to go north and south, east and west. He's definitely sneaky that way, and he's got power, and he's got a nice set of hands.
Yeah, I like Carson. He's a solid running back. He's not really a guy that you look at though, and you're necessarily afraid of per se. But like you said, he's just sneaky. He's very elusive, and he can catch passes out of the backfield for Wilson. I think the biggest thing is don't let him to the outside because he's got that speed. If you let him get to the outside, you're never going to catch him. So you got to contain him. You need to contain him early, and try to keep it in the middle of the field. Like I said, don't let him bounce anything outside.
Outside of the numbers, man, that's where teams want to kill you. I mean, if we're approaching a game, that's where you have the most success is getting outside them numbers, man. And and if it's raining, it's going to be a battle of the running backs. It's going to be a battle of running backs like you were talking about. We were talking about earlier. You're saying they don't have Derrick Henry. We do. But I just think that they're both effective in their own right. We have the back-to-back rushing champion, Derrick Henry, so I'm definitely rocking with El Tractocito. but you kind of just have to put it out there. You have to be real. You can't just be biased and be like, oh man, we're just gonna automatically go out there and shut things down. No, you have to account for everything. There's gonna be situations that are gonna happen that are unforeseen, and nothing's perfect in the NFL, just like nothing's perfect in life. You see what I'm saying? So there's a lot of variables as to why we could win and as to why we could lose. We just got to eliminate the mistakes. And the biggest thing for us, you talk about there's like multiple things we have to, get better at. But that right tackle position, Taylor Lewan getting back into his groove, getting back in sync with this offensive line, taking leadership over that offensive line, right? Because when you look to it, who's been there the longest? Taylor Lewan. So he's got to stop making bonehead decisions. I know it's in the past, and it's not like he's continuing to make bonehead decisions, but it's just even like with stupid plays, him jumping off him like false starting or getting some stupid holes, or just him getting just torched the other day by J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones. Those type of bonehead things can't continue to happen because he's just digging himself into a deeper hole. And he has to realize he's the leader and he's the captain of that offensive line. You know, Roger Saffold's been in the league longer than him, but this is Tennessee Titans organization. And who's been in the longest? Taylor Lewan. So those left and right tackles, if they're not on point, man, it's going to be a long day for the Tennessee Titans.
Well, it was definitely nice to see Lewan publicly hold himself accountable after that game. I don't know if you saw the tweet.
I did.
But it was nice to see him take that accountability. Mm-hmm. The problem now is he's got to go up and back that out. You know, he's got to go out and do something. He's got to show that he's better. You know, after taking that butt whooping last week from Jones,
right?
It's not enough to publicly hold yourself accountable. Now you got to go make the change. So that's kind of what I'm looking for this week. But I also wonder, you know, we haven't heard a whole lot about his knee after the ACL last year, and I just wonder if he's 100%, if he's really healthy. I mean, I can't imagine them playing him if he wasn't, but you know, you got to wonder because that's not like him. I mean, he'll have his bad games here and there, but to get completely destroyed like that is just not like him.
Yeah.
So I do question that a little bit if he's really 100%.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's mostly I think it's here for him. You know what I mean? I think he's aware of all the pressure that's on his shoulders, but I feel like he's trying to like not take it head on. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I mean, this is just from the outside looking in. I love Taylor Lewan, like, you know. So let's not get it twisted when I say these things. I'm just trying to hold him accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's just with anything, you hold people accountable. That's how you get better. Being able to correct your wrongs. You know, if you continue to make mistakes, then you become a failure.
Well, fortunately, he won't be going up against Chandler Jones again this week. So, you know, with that in mind, it can only get better, right? I mean,
yeah.
No matter what Seattle throws at him, it's not going to be Chandler Jones. So,
right. Hey, so you know, we're talking about the offensive line right now. Do you think Questenberry's going to get the start tomorrow?
I don't know. They've been keeping it pretty close to the vest. I would think he probably does. You know. And mainly because it was just an all-around bad performance. I don't think you can just pinpoint it on one guy and say, well, it was Questenberry or it was Lewan. It was everybody. Mm-hmm. You know, everyone got destroyed in that game on that offensive line. I saw Saffold missing blocks and Jones missing blocks, and it was just bad all the way around.
Davis
too.
Yeah,
so I would imagine for sure that he's probably going to get another shot. And, you know, if it goes south, that's going to be about it.
I think he has till the first half to prove himself tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, I think the hook will be pretty quick.
Right,
I mean,
right.
You know, we can't go through that 2 weeks in a row.
Nah, man, definitely not at all. And there's a possibility of rain, but there's 100% chance of a hostile environment. There's 100% that's going to be there. How can we overcome that? Like, I know we're not out there, you know what I'm saying, like, because it's going to have to be a silent snap count. And like, the environment is going to be so loud and it's going to be so overwhelming. Do you think these guys are going to be able to overcome that and just be able to drown that out, considering the display we showed the nation, the world last week?
Well, you got to score. That's the first thing. And, you know, you've been to a lot of football games. I'm sure you have, and I have as well. The number one thing that I noticed is you take a crowd right out of it, you know, when you score. Right. So if you can get points up, especially early, and make that crowd die down a bit, you'll be able to overcome it just fine. You know, when the game gets closer late in the fourth quarter, that's another story. You're going to have to figure that out with, like you said, silent counts and things like that. But you can take the crowd out of it. Especially if you come out in the first quarter, you knock them in the mouth, you get a couple quick touchdowns, you know, early in that game. You silence that crowd a bit. So I definitely think it's possible to kind of calm that out a little bit, but it's Seattle. You know, we know how crazy those fans can be, and you know how loud it gets out there. So I certainly wouldn't bank on being able to take the crowd out of it at all, to be quite honest.
For sure. Who concerns you the most on their offense? if you're Shane Bowen, you're trying to draw up your game plan for tomorrow. And I'm sure they've been working on this for probably months now. Probably since the schedule came out, they've been trying to figure out how to maneuver around this high-powered offense and make sure that they're able to put the right guys in the right positions to be successful and to execute. So if you're Shane Bowen and you're at the drawing board, who are you putting your focus on? Who concerns you the most and it just irks you?
For me, it's Lockett. However, I would imagine, when you're the offensive coordinator and you're looking at that offense as a whole, it's probably DK.
Yeah.
The guy's a physical freak. I mean, he's tall, he's big, he's strong, and he's fast. And I've never seen a combination quite like that where a guy was built like him, but could run a 4.4 40, and the guy's just quick. And so I think when you look at that, that's probably where the majority of the focus is going to go. Now, me as a fan, I look at Lockett, being underrated like we were talking about and everything else. And I think part of that is because of DK, because he does get so much attention, and that allows Lockett to thrive. But Lockett was doing it before DK even got there. And I think people forget about that. So I would put my focus on Lockett first and kind of go from there. I think they're going to go the other way with it. I don't think you can really go wrong either way. If you can try and take one of those guys and, you're not going to take them out of the game, but hold them in check, I think we'll be okay.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I agree full-heartedly with that. My concern is, if I'm Shane Bowen, is number 3. You know what I'm saying? Number 3. Russell Wilson is my biggest concern because of his big arm, his ability to make big plays consistently, and this man's a Hall of Famer. Right now, he got a Super Bowl early in his career. Mm-hmm. He's continued to, like you said, be in the conversation of being a top 5 quarterback. You know what I mean? And you can argue it. Perception is reality. But I would agree with that. He's definitely handled business. He's had his seasons where things just weren't flowing the way they should be. But that's the ebbs and flows of the NFL and teams being in rebuilding modes and trying to get the right nucleus together to have that success. But he's showed to have the ability of longevity as well, and the guys respect him. He's a leader in that locker room. So it starts with him for me. I'm trying to figure out how to keep this man in front of me. I'm trying to figure out how to contain this dude. And as we saw last week, we were getting pressure on Kyler Murray, but Russell Wilson's that he was the real deal. There's no Kyler Murray without Russell Wilson. You know what I mean? So we have to take that into consideration and figure out how to stop number 3, man, because he can do it with his legs, he can do it with his arm, and he's a big time ball player. So I'm trying to figure out how to shut him down and make him uncomfortable, and how can we get him down? You know what I mean? How can we get a Bud Dupree to be able to slow his process down and be able to stop and be able to watch this man's hips and be able to wrap up and make a technical tackle? And how can we do that as a team? So that's my biggest concern. I'm probably gonna have nightmares tonight about Russell Wilson.
Well, with Wilson too, you got to make him throw the ball quick. Don't let him get out of the pocket. Don't give him a whole lot of time. You've got to make him make those decisions as quickly as possible so that he doesn't get time to extend those plays, because that's when it gets dangerous. That's when guys like DK and Lockett start getting open and finding Everett down the middle of the field, things like that. So you need to make him make those decisions quickly. Mm-hmm. And he's certainly an elusive quarterback. We've seen this forever, but he's not quite as quick as Kyler is. Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, I would hope that we're able to contain him a little bit better than we were Murray a week ago. But if we can make him make quick decisions, then I think that's the best case scenario.
Right. And you alluded to it earlier. That offensive line is not, the most impressive, not the most talented.
Oh, they haven't been for years over there.
Right. They're like, man. Hey, you remember that defense they had the year they won a Super Bowl, though?
Oh, the Legion of Boom, of course.
Oh, my gosh. Defense wins championships. our defense has to figure it out starting tomorrow. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Because like we can't even talk about Super Bowl conversations if our defense can't get right.
Well, we're seeing in the NFL now too, more and more teams like Kansas City, to a lesser extent, Tampa. Now, granted, their defense dominated that Super Bowl last year, and they had a good defense. Don't get me wrong, but they were really fueled by that offense. So you're starting to see the NFL kind of go the other way a little bit, where you have these real high-powered offenses and things like that. Mm-hmm. But the defenses aren't bad; they're just not great.
Right.
So I think that's kind of what is the silver lining for Tennessee. If we can figure out the offensive side of it, be able to put up points, because if you can put up 30 points and you have an average defense, because that's all they really need to be, that's when you start to make that run, and that's when you start to get taken seriously. Nobody will look at Kansas City and tell me they have a great defense.
No.
They're good.
But collectively, and they're bought into the system, right. and they're put in positions to have success.
You know right. I mean? Nobody puts them in those conversations of Seattle or Denver a few years ago, or teams like that. So, I think we just have to find a way to be average. And I know, that's probably an unpopular opinion, but in today's NFL, you don't need a great defense anymore when your offense is one of the best in the NFL. And I think
sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean
to I just said I think ours can be one of the best in the league. And if that's the case, you're putting up 30, 35 points a week. Mm-hmm. Your defense doesn't have to do a whole lot of heavy lifting. You just have to keep the other team in check.
Yeah. I mean, I could agree with that, but then I got to think about Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl this past year. In that NFC Championship game, he put up how many interceptions? I think he had like 3 or 4 interceptions that game. Mm-hmm. And their defense gave them multiple opportunities to go out there and try to solidify the win to get to the Super Bowl. So even that within itself, and the fact that defense was able to contain Mahomes and that high-powered offense that they had, they still have. You know what I mean? So I don't want to talk past tense because they still have the same cast. But it's just at the end of the day, their defense put them in positions to win. So like I'm not saying we got to be top 10, but we got to be top at least 12, 15. And we got to be fluctuating sometimes with being at the 10 spot, 11 spot, fluctuating up and down, maybe being 9. You know what I mean? Because every week is different, and guys go down. Unfortunately, knock on wood. You know what I'm saying? But that's just what happens. So people are putting in next man up situations, and last year Tampa Bay didn't have that. The other guys were healthy, and they were strong. And they were making a push, and they were making a statement. Hey, this is who we are. We're high powered, we're hard hitting, we're smart, we're sound, and we have Tom Brady on the other end of the ball. So I don't know, man. We got to have that. And Bud Dupree has got to be our guy that makes that statement. And we kind of just. I know you have something to say, so I'm going to let you talk before I jump off the next subject.
No. I just think that again, you want to be able to hold them in check. I mean, with the defense that we have and the players that we have, we're never going to outright stop a team. I don't think. Right. I think that that's doing a little too much. That we have a very young defense. There's a lot of young guys on this team. Right. They're starting to learn how to play together and learning this new system and everything. So. Again, like you were saying, you want to hover around that like 12 to 16 range. To me, that's about average-ish, and that's kind of where you want to be if you want to be a championship team. Right. I think we have the talent to get there. I just think we're going to be mid-season before we really start to see it come together. Mm-hmm. But I think for like a game like tomorrow, can we hold them in check enough to give our offense a chance to pull it out? That's kind of what I'm looking for.
We just can't be trading points. In basketball, I hate to see teams. I hate to see teams trade buckets. Right. I hate that. Nah, man, you gotta make stops somewhere. You gotta get an offensive rebound somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, but we're talking NFL. But you get what I'm saying.
Right.
We can't be trading points with them. It can't be a game where it's just high powered. Like we go down, we score. They go down, they score. It can't be that. It can't be that tomorrow. Somebody's got to make it. Somebody's got to make a statement for us on defense. And I want to just talk about our defense right now, and I want to talk about the injuries, the guys that are questionable for tomorrow as well. So we're just talking about how high powered and how stacked Seattle is and how many options they got and how many different ways they can kill us. So now we got to talk about our defense and talk about who's available because the best ability is availability. And yeah, and the guy I talked about being our leader and our captain, who I feel who needs to take on that role, is Bud Dupree, but he's questionable for tomorrow, right?
Yeah, he's it's still the knee. I think they said that he was limited in practice on Thursday,
right.
But it does sound like he's going to play. So I think they're just being careful with him. Anytime you're talking about an ACL, you don't want to push somebody too quickly. Especially his position where you are putting so much pressure on that knee and trying to get after the quarterback and all that kind of stuff. So you want to be careful with him, but I think he's good to go.
Especially when he didn't practice this much during the offseason. He wasn't like very active out there with the team. I know he was doing his rehab workouts and doing his regiments with that. But as far as contact goes, there was none of that.
Right.
Being in game time situations, very minimal. You know what I'm saying? Like just on the practice field. But practice, we all know practice makes perfect. And, you want to practice how you play. But when you get in that game, it's totally different. It's full speed. And you guys aren't being protected with with different colored jerseys, right? You can't hit him. You know what I'm saying? No, it's open season, and so likewise, the play doesn't stop till the whistle blows. So, at the end of the day, there's always opportunities for guys to get injured, and they gotta be sound in that way. And mentally, I know it's probably harping on them too, but I do like what we've seen out of him last week. I just think it's gonna come around full circle mid-season, like you said, with Bud Dupree. Let's talk about Danica Autry real quick. We saw him very little last week, but they said that they're going to work him in just with the game flow and with the strategic plan that's set forth by Shane Bowen. What are your thoughts on Danica? I know you really don't have a huge sample size to talk about right now as a Tennessee Titan, but in the past we've seen what he can do. His ability with the Colts, what the numbers he put up there, and what he showcased with the Colts. What are your thoughts on Danica Autry? How do you feel like he could be a positive addition to this team and help us to build that culture within the locker room?
Yeah, I absolutely think he can. He's a guy that I think does a lot of things well, but like you were saying last week about I forget who it was you were talking about, but he does a lot of things that don't show up on the stat sheet, which is always a big deal. You don't see the pressures on the stat sheet and things like that, things of that nature. So I think he can be a positive influence for us, but it's gonna take time. He's in a new team, new system, and all that kind of stuff. Playing with new guys, it's just time, and again, you can't get time until you actually get him out on the field. So right. I'd like to see him out a little bit more than he was last week, get him into the rotation a little bit more, see if he can make some plays. But like I said, it's just another thing that I think is going to come over the next few weeks. I don't expect a whole lot out of him yet, even tomorrow. So I'd like to see him get out there, get some reps, and hopefully here in a few weeks we'll see the impact that he can have.
Right. And it's so important for people to know it's not really about starting, games and starting the season. It's about who finishes. You know what I mean? Who's able to be available when they're needed, like the most. Mm-hmm. The best ability is availability. So it's timing. It's the grace of God that people are still able to sustain a full season or be able to bounce back from a minor injury. So I know he's going to work through his motions. He'll get back into sync with things, and when he does, I feel like he's going to be a problem for the opposing team's offensive line and then their quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
Right, Jeff Simmons. I'm glad to see he was active last week. You know what I mean? They definitely could do more against Kyler Murray, but under the circumstances, things didn't go our way. But I was excited to see him get a sack. He was active. He was getting off the ball fast, and he was, causing disruption. And Harold Landry as well. He's always a factor. He's very underrated in the NFL. Harold Landry does his job week in and week out, and it seems like he just loves football. You seem like you'll never hear this man complain. And I know he showed up on the injury report because I know he had something going on with his groin?
I don't remember, but he was another one I read about today. They said should be good to go.
Right.
They're just taking it easy, and being careful with it. So
for sure,
he should be good.
Right. Let's talk about Jayon Brown. I think he's questionable for tomorrow as well.
He is, yeah. But again, they said he was a full participant in practice the other day, so he's going to play.
It could be smoke and mirrors for the opposition, cause them a little confusion. Oh crap! Maybe we could, they can make a last minute adjustment in that situation. It's all about chess, right? You're playing chess, you gotta kind of be 3 steps ahead, and like poker, you gotta bluff a little bit.
We're gonna need Brown to have an impact, man. I think he's another underrated guy, and players in Tennessee typically just don't get a whole lot of recognition.
Right.
So he's going to have to make an impact tomorrow one way or the other. And whether it's, causing a turnover or getting to rush, I know he doesn't rush a whole lot, but he's going to have to make a play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he does his job and he does it well. You know what I mean? And he's an undersized guy too, so I think he plays with a lot of heart and a lot of passion. I think that's why Tennessee has kept him around. And I think they gave him the bag last year, if I'm not mistaken. I think he got paid a little bit.
I think it was 1 year. I think it was just a 1 year.
Was it?
I think it was just a 1 year deal. Yeah, just for this year, with the whole salary cap issue.
But was it the previous year? Because I think it was the previous year. I don't think it was the previous year that we re-signed him. I don't think
maybe. I thought I heard he was only under contract for this season though, but I could be wrong.
Got you. I was trying to look up the injury that Harold Landry sustained, but hey, they say he's a full participant, so that's good news. Brady Breeze. What are your thoughts on Brady Breeze? I was just looking at the report. He got activated from the reserve COVID-19 list to just a regular injured reserve. What are your thoughts on Brady Breeze?
Honestly, I don't really have a whole lot just because we haven't seen him play a whole lot. He hasn't done much yet. High energy guy. We know that. We saw that a little bit. But
he's a hard hitter too.
He's
a bruiser. He's a bruiser.
Yeah. He definitely provides a lot of energy. But I want to see him get out and do something. Get out and play a little bit and get some game time. The problem with a lot of these guys is, especially young guys, is that until you actually see them on the field, and I'm not talking preseason, I'm talking real regular season NFL football, you just don't get a good feel for what they're going to bring. Energy is only so much. Big hits is only so much. You need to see if they can put it together, on the field during a regular season game. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. Other than that, until he comes out and does a little bit, I don't have a whole lot of thoughts on him.
Right.
No disrespect.
No, for sure.
Just want to see it out there. That's all.
No, I mean he had a pretty solid reputation in Oregon, but like you said, it only matters when you're able to play a regular season football game.
We've seen plenty of players come into this league with a lot of hype, young guys and things like that, and it just doesn't pan out because they can't put it together when it matters. So I try to reserve those kinds of opinions until I see guys come out and make an impact.
And the only reason why I asked, because I was just looking at the roster moves that have been made over the past week, and it was right there. And he also got kicked out of off-season training workouts for like a dirty hit. He did some foul stuff, man. I think he hit somebody just stupidly, and I think Vrabel kicked him out of practice.
Well, yeah, Vrabel's not going to put up with that, so.
Man, I love Vrabel, dude. I love Vrabel a lot, man. But yeah, talking about young guys though, while we're on that subject, Elijah Moulding. I got so much respect for that dude. I love the way he carries himself, and the way he answers questions, and it seems like he's always just talking in football terms. Like, you know what I mean? He seems like just a football head, and he just wants to get better, and he's passionate about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's his craft, and I feel like he's willing to die for the love of football, dude. Like, he's so solid. And no, he missed a couple tackles last week. He got burned a couple times, but welcome to the NFL, dude. But I feel like he's a young guy that we haven't seen much, but he just has that aura, that energy about him. I feel like he's gonna do big things and be one of our young guys that make some noise.
Oh, I completely agree. And again, like we were talking about, our defense is pretty young, and he's just another young guy that it's just going to take a minute. But I fully expect him to come around and be an impact player. His football IQ is very high. We've seen that. We saw it a lot in the preseason when he was out there, having guys make adjustments, and he was out there leading that charge and leading the team and things like that. So I have no doubt that he's going to be an impact player for us and that he's going to be able to make those changes down the line. It's going to take him a minute, but he's going to be just fine. And then after last week, I know, he had held himself accountable as well, much like Lawan did, and he just said that he was unprepared for the speed of the game and that he didn't realize that it was quite so fast. And you hear that from a lot of young guys. So now that he has that knowledge and now that he's seen it, I expect him to get better. And it wouldn't surprise me if he made a couple big plays tomorrow.
Yep, for sure. Would not surprise me at all. It didn't surprise me either when I seen Caleb Farley was out indefinitely for tomorrow. That didn't surprise me.
No, but it's not the back, which is good.
It's not the back, for sure.
No, it's the shoulder. So,
yeah.
That does make it a little better given the fact that we were also worried about the back. But the fact that he's not missing the game because of his back, that's a positive, I think. We don't want him to miss it all, obviously, but he probably wasn't going to play a whole lot tomorrow as it was.
Yeah.
So probably not a whole big reason to keep him on the roster for tomorrow. He only played 8 snaps last week, and they were all in garbage time. So he got out on the field. He got a little bit of game time last week, but it wasn't much. And then the same would have happened tomorrow. So probably not a bad thing. Let him get healthy, let him get right, and continue to work, over the course of the next few weeks and till we can get him out there, more consistently.
Right. And I know the optimistic, pissed off side of me last week was like, hey, when are we gonna let the reins off of Caleb Farley and let him go? You know what I mean? Like just by seeing what Janoris Jenkins displayed, you know what I mean? And Christian Fulton's still a young guy coming into his own, trying to figure out who he is, smell himself a little bit. He hasn't established himself yet, but he is on the up and up. So I was really hoping we could get him going, but like I said, I just wasn't surprised. That was the optimistic side of me, but then I gotta be realistic too. And I just talked about Janoris Jenkins, man. And I know I don't cuss on this show. D Weez and I don't allow cussing on the show, but this is not necessarily a cuss word. Is Jack Rabbit going to be Jack Rabbit tomorrow, or is he going to be a jackass like he was last week?
Let me just say this: they need to give him help. They need to give him help over the top. They have to protect him. They cannot leave him.
We can't double. We can't double tomorrow, man. Like
you don't have to double necessarily, but you got to make sure that the help is available to him. We cannot leave him one-on-one with DK or Lockett. He's just going to get ate up. And that's the dilemma that we're in right now with him is tomorrow we got 2 receivers. And like you said, it doesn't matter 1, 2, 1A. It doesn't matter. Right. Whichever way you decide to line him up, it's going to be a problem. Right. So I think they have got to give him some help, not necessarily a double, but make sure a safety is at least over the top, kind of watching what's going on, what's happening there. I'm worried about him, against these guys tomorrow.
and you kind of just read my mind just a second ago. You're talking about maybe getting some potential safety help back there. Amani Hooker's out for at least 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So we have a couple guys. Bradley Mcdougall. He's a veteran. You know what I mean? He's bounced around the league a little bit. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with him being there because he has that veteran experience. You know what I'm saying? And he's never really been a starting guy. He's always been a guy that, hey, I'm gonna hold you down while you hurt or while you get some water. You know what I'm saying? That's my role.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's perfect for him, and for us, and Tennessee Titans organization. But what about like a guy like Dame Cruikshank and Matthias Farley? That like, why are they here?
Special teams.
Special teams.
I mean, we know why
Right.
Cruikshank is here.
Right.
He's one of the best special teams players in the league, and we've seen that for a couple of years now. But it's Mcdougall is going to be probably the big guy back there, and he's smart. He understands the game, and that's kind of what you want, And again, I think the one downside to Hooker is as good as he's looked at times. Again, he's young, and on a young defense surrounded by a ton of other young talent, there's not a whole lot of guys there to really filter through, veteran leadership and things like that. We got Byard back there and things like that, but we need some more veterans. I think we need that veteran presence, and that's what he's going to provide tomorrow. So I would expect that he's going to be just fine. I think he's going to make a couple plays, but ultimately, I'm a little worried with the secondary tomorrow. I think any Titans fan should be. I think it would be foolish to expect that we're going to shut down that game.
Bruh, not even just tomorrow, bro. Like the rest of the season. Until we're
I think we have enough talent to come around at some point. I don't think we're going to shut teams down, but I don't think we're going to get out and get whipped every week either, by passing games and things like that. I think tomorrow is going to be difficult. I think it's going to be.
So you think we're going to have to take a bend, don't break approach in our defense?
As far as the secondary goes, absolutely. And I just don't think that we have the talent to cover some of these guys. Jenkins is not – unfortunately, he's, at 33 years old, he's getting a little older, and he doesn't have the speed that he used to have. He doesn't have the same coverage skills that he used to have. So I worry not just tomorrow, but for the rest of the season about him specifically being matched up against those guys. Where I think our saving grace could be is if Fulton comes around quicker than we anticipate, quicker than we think, and you can move those two, I think that would benefit our defense greatly. Fulton's not quite ready yet, I don't think, but I think he's getting there. And if we can get mid-season where maybe you can switch him onto those ones and have Jackrabbit play onto the twos a little bit more, I think that would benefit our secondary greatly and give us that extra edge.
Right. Rashaan Evans, I want to talk about him real quick. I know we're kind of bouncing around on the defense from the secondary to back to the linebacker core. What are your thoughts on Rashaan Evans, man? Because I feel like if he's not making a bonehead play, lately his name is not bringing across commentators their analysis of the game. Like he's not on the stat sheet. He's not showing up with high numbers, like sacks, tackles. Like it's just kind of just floating around, being mediocre. But I feel like he has the ability to be a spectacular player. What are your thoughts on Rashaan Evans, man?
He's been fairly disappointing since we drafted him.
For me, it's the bonehead decisions. The play, it's just like it's so ill-timed when it happens, and it's so stupid, idiotic when he does it. When he does these type of stupid things, it's just like I know he approaches the game with passion and with love and aggression. I know he loves the game, but I know he has the ability to be like a high power player. I feel like if he's not gonna necessarily be the best player in Tennessee, I feel like if he goes anywhere else to another defense with another defensive coordinator, I feel like he's going to come into his own and be really good. I just hope that maybe that is sparked now, because this is his final year with us, basically. I mean that's guaranteed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I don't think we're going to bring him back, to be quite honest, unless he
I don't think so either.
Complete turnaround. Like you said, I think he has the ability, but for whatever reason, it hasn't clicked, and he hasn't been able to put it together. He'll make like a play and then disappear for 3 weeks, and we don't hear from him again. So he's just been really disappointing, and I'm hoping that at some point here, very very soon, it starts to click a little bit. I liked the draft pick when we drafted him. I thought, he was going to be a big impact player for us, and it just hasn't worked out. And that happens from time to time. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it necessarily. It obviously sucks as a fan to see a guy like that has so much potential and so much talent fall to the side the way that he has. But, if I'm being real honest, I don't expect a whole lot out of him. I hope I'm wrong. I absolutely hope I'm wrong. But he just hasn't done much.
Yeah. I agree, and I feel like he has to do a lot in such a small window because
there's a lot of pressure on him if he wants to get paid. He can go out in free agency, but he's just not going to get that big deal that every player wants, and that's the reality of it, whether it comes from us or somebody else.
Yeah, I feel like he'd have to become like a little more versatile in his game too, because if you ever get in a situation. If he has to cover, he can't really cover.
No.
And that's why Jayon Brown is good at his role because he's able to be a hybrid kind of guy. You know what I'm saying? And then David Long Jr., another guy too. So I'm talking about guys, linebackers who could potentially cover, simply because they need help in our secondary. You know what I mean? So guys got to be in the right positions, and guys got to be on the same page. They got to know what their man's job is. Everybody's got to hold everybody accountable and step up to the plate, and talk about technique, strategy, and just knowing what your teammate is thinking and knowing what they're supposed to do. And they know without a doubt that you know what you're supposed to do. So it just leads me to my next thing, man, talking about potential situations where we have to get extra coverage and guys be on the same page. We talked about that threat that we have tomorrow with the high-powered offense that Seattle has. So let's talk about who are you going to put on Tyler Lockett if you're Shane Bowen?
That's such a hard question. I'd probably put Jackrabbit on him. I think they're going to look to go to DK a little more often, and with that in mind, I want Fulton over there. But that's what Wilson does, and that's what makes that offense so good. You think they're going to go one way, and he'll go the other way.
Right.
So I think he's going to target Jackrabbit wherever he is, and that's going to be a problem. He's either going to have to step up and make some plays and not leave those windows open, or like I said, we're going to have to give him some help over the top. So that's kind of what I would do in that situation. But I think, Jackrabbit tomorrow is almost going to be a liability. And it sucks to say that about anybody on your team, but he just doesn't have those same skills that he once had. Right. You're talking about two of the best receivers in football. They're both fast. They're both strong. Lockett's a lot smaller, which is another reason why I would put him on Lockett, just that size difference. So that's kind of what I would do. It's going to be interesting to see what we decide to do tomorrow.
Yeah, Kevin Byers, man, he's going to have to play a huge role tomorrow. And
he's used to that.
And right, but I feel like he has to be more trusting within his guys, because in the past 2 seasons, he really hasn't been able to do what Kevin Byers is able to do, right? And that's because he's having to worry about other people's positions. But I feel like he's going to have to take the approaches, but I got to trust these guys. I got to trust these guys to be in a position so that way I can be in a position to help my team out where my skill set is. You know what I'm saying? And Kevin Byers will definitely embrace that role without a shadow of a doubt. Like you say, he's already embraced it. But I just feel this is the time where, you got to put the trust in your guys, man, because you don't want to be that veteran on the field that just doesn't trust nobody out there. It's micromanaging, right? And just always kind of nitpicking, because there's a level of holding people accountable, and there's a level of just being, just a micromanager. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, you're rocking KB right now, so
let me tell you, if there is one player on our defense that I do not worry about, it's Kevin Byard. Mm-hmm. He's he's smart. He's I don't want to say that he reminds me of Ed Reed per se. Ed Reed's the greatest safety to ever play the game, but he has those ball hawk skills the way that Ed Reed sort of had, and he, he's a guy that just finds the football.
He's got a knack for it. He's got a knack for it.
He just makes plays, and and so like I'm not really worried about him. We saw it, with the interception last week. He just knows how to be around the football. So I think with Byard, I think it's you said he needs to learn to trust the guys around him. I think it's partly that, but he needs to trust himself. I think he needs to put that trust in himself and just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go out and make these plays and just go be Kevin Byard.
Right.
I think you're right about one thing. He hasn't been able to be himself the last year or two, in part because of a lot of the limitations that we've had defensively. But, you do have a veteran corner in Jack Rabbit. You have Fulton, who I thought more than proved himself last week. Now, granted, it's one game for a young corner. But with that in mind, hopefully he can start trusting himself a little bit more to say, go make those plays. Those guys can handle themselves a little bit. He's not going to have to cover for them as much as you were talking about, I don't think.
Right. So let's role play again. Now Shane Bowen, you mentioned Christian Fulton. Who's Christian Fulton? Who's he going to guard? Who's he going to defend? Who's his assignment? Who does he have to hold in check tomorrow if you're Shane Bowen?
I'd put him on DK. I think that's going to be the hardest matchup for us is DK tomorrow. But with Fulton, I saw so many good things from him last week, and I was just so impressed with the way that he played.
Right.
I think I even told you last week I would have made the adjustment sooner last week and maybe stuck him on Hopkins a little bit earlier, and then tried to get in their heads a little bit and move things around. So I'd put him on DK tomorrow and hope that he holds him in check. And then it's kind of twofold. If you put him on there and he has a really good game, holds him in check a little bit, then he's ready. If he gets beat and he's struggling, then he needs a little bit of work. But I think with guys like that, you don't know until you put him out there and put him in that situation. And there's no better time than tomorrow, in my opinion.
So you're saying, hey, little homie, this your opportunity.
It's your time. It's your time. Just go get it, man.
Hey, and at the end of the game, if he does well, you gotta walk up to him and say, "Hey, you got the juice now."
Yeah, man. He's got a lot. He's got so much energy out there, man. He's learning quick, and you can see it. And even last year when he started to the end of the season, he had made so much strides that it was just really good to see. So I think that again, you continue to put him in these situations, and I think you'd be surprised at how he responds.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. I'm with you on that. Man, we spent so much time talking about Seattle's offense, our defense, and we really haven't talked about our offense. We haven't talked about Ryan Tannehill. We haven't talked about Julio Jones. We haven't talked about A.J. Brown. Anthony Fersker, was he was on an injury list, but was he limited or was he a full participant?
I read that he was a full participant, and they said he's playing, so I wouldn't worry too much.
Okay, cool. So how are we going to approach the game tomorrow, Todd Downing? Now play the role playing situation again. We're at the drawing board. We struggled last week up front, which caused a whole debacle on our offense. We couldn't get anything going from start to finish. It was shaky, and just the atmosphere and the energy that the offensive line the holes they dug themselves into, man, it just put a bad taste in everybody's mouth the rest of the game. But we got to, like we said, we got to trust those guys. But how are we going to get Julio back in the groove of things? Because I don't think it's an ability thing. It's just getting in the groove. You're in a whole different situation, whole new stadium. We're in a different jersey, different guys in the locker room. What's your biggest what's your number one thing you're trying to approach? Are you gonna stick to the game plan and run the ball with Derrick Henry, or are you gonna try to put that thing in the air, trying to get Julio involved and AJ, our playmaker?
We talked last week about how Henry starts slow typically at the beginning of the season. With Henry, it's It's tough because last year he had 2 games in the first 4 games where he ran for over 100 yards, but both games it took him over 30 carries to get there, and he had less than a 4 yard per carry average, which is none of that's like him at all. So obviously you definitely want to establish the run, but I think more importantly for us tomorrow, Henry is going to be Henry, and I don't worry about Derrick Henry whatsoever. I worry about the offensive line, but I don't really worry about what Henry is or isn't going to do. Henry's going to be just fine.
Right.
The passing game is kind of the issue, and part of that is the line. So there's 2 ways I would approach it. One, I would run a lot of quick throws, little slants and things like that. Let Tannehill get the ball out quickly.
That's where AJ Brown is at his best.
The slants. Nobody can touch him. Nobody can touch him.
When I play Madden, I'm like a kid in a candy store. I'll run slants with him back to back.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's the first thing. You want to get the ball out quickly. Make Seattle think about it for a minute. But the second thing, and even more importantly, in my opinion, because this really bothered me last week, where was the play action? It was non-existent last week. They tried to run it.
But
you know what? Just having Derrick Henry back there, we've seen it time and time again. Even when he's struggling, the play action works because of who he is.
Right.
We don't need Derrick Henry to have a big game in order for the play action to be successful because teams are still going to respect Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry can run for 30 yards on 15 carries, and that play action is still going to deliver. So you're going to have to find a way to get the play action going. And, Arthur Smith, that's what he was so good at. And, when we lost him, we lost that, I think. And Downing is going to have to find a way to maybe not replicate it completely, but he's going to have to get the play action involved, and he is going to have to find those plays that are going to keep defenses honest. Derrick Henry can be completely shut down, and those play actions will work just because it's Derrick Henry. So we're going to have to find a way to make those play actions happen tomorrow. And, I don't want to see 3 or 4 of them. They got to be a consistent part of the game plan.
I'm going to give Derrick Henry a little bit of a pass. I'm going to give him a little bit of a pass because he had 17 touches for 58 yards he had?
58, yeah.
A lot of yards got taken away from him. He lost a lot of yards because of stupid penalties that he had no control over. So I know you say, historically he starts slow, but if it was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. But what if that didn't happen? He would have had maybe 75, maybe I don't know. That's a solid game. You know what I'm saying? But that's off 17 carries. So for me, if those things didn't happen, I'm like 17 carries. He got that many yards. He could have maybe one of those runs. He burst it off for a big one. You know what I'm saying? So that's off. Less carries than what we're used to seeing. Definitely not 30 because we're used to seeing him getting 25 or 30. So I know it's kind of just it's kind of stupid to even think about it because it's a what if situation. But you gotta kind of put it up to the test and be like, hey, I mean that's progress. You know what I'm saying? And it was out of his hand. It was out of his control. But do you think he can go for 100 yards plus tomorrow?
Oh
yeah. You think he will?
No, I think he can. I don't think he will, but I don't think it's because of him. It's going to be more so. I think we're going to try to throw the ball. I think they got to get Tannehill going. They got to get Julio involved, and they got to figure out what that is going to look like. And I think tomorrow there's no need. Hopefully, there's no need to run Henry 30 times. You can hopefully build a lead.
Run the ball with our backup guys, man. Get Jeremy McNichols involved. Get him involved early. Mekhi Sargent. Get that man the ball. Let's open up this pass game the right way. Let's start up front. Start with our offensive line. Let's get the run game going. You know what I'm saying? That way we can open up the play action package. You know what I'm saying? That way we can open it up a little bit and get the receivers their touches. It's got to be complimentary all the way around, but it starts up front.
Because if Derrick Henry has 30 carries tomorrow, then our defense is playing amazing.
Right.
That's really what that will look like, because I would imagine that Seattle is going to score, and they're probably going to score quite a bit, and that's going to take the ball out of Henry a little bit. I think that, offensively we're going to have that pressure to keep up, and, it's a passing league now. And we've certainly done a lot to buck that trend in Tennessee.
I love it. Old school, blue collar, man. I love it.
Absolutely. And I love it. But you got to get Julio involved. You gotta figure out what you're doing with Ferguson. He's going to be a weapon for us. But you can't do that handing the ball to Derrick Henry 35 times a game. Now, if that's what it takes to win, that's what it takes to win. That's fine. I just don't see it tomorrow. I think he goes for something like 87 yards and a touchdown, something along those lines. I think he'll get close, but I don't think he'll quite hit 100 tomorrow.
It's got to be even kill, bro. It's got to be, we're running the ball 30, 35 times a game, throwing the ball 30, 35 times a game. It can't be the other way around. Like, it can't be just us tossing the ball 45 times a game. Because if we do that, man, dude, we're definitely in for a long day.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it last week.
Right? He had 35, but 30
getting blown out. Yeah. I certainly think Tannehill is capable of throwing 45 times and winning football games. I absolutely think he is. It's not what we're used to seeing in Tennessee, but I would stop short of saying that he can't deliver in that way, because I don't think that's true at all. I just think that he hasn't had to. And so the perception is that, well, that's just not his game. Well, I don't think that it's not his game. I think it's just that we haven't needed him to do that. Right. When he's been asked to throw the ball outside of the playoffs, he's been pretty damn good. So I think he's going to have to. I think he's going to have to throw tomorrow. I think that's what the game is going to dictate, and I think that he is going to do a lot of good things in the air tomorrow. And I think we're going to be successful throwing the ball.
Yeah, I mean, we got the staff. We got the personnel for him just throw an 8-yard pass, 10-yard pass, and that turns into 50, 60 to the house. You know what I'm saying? So,
and having Reynolds tomorrow is going to help too.
Yes,
getting him on the field for the first time, seeing him in the slot, that's going to be big tomorrow.
You read my mind on that, man. Especially if he's healthy. You know what I'm saying? If he's healthy, and like last week was just more of a precautionary thing, I'm definitely excited to see what he can bring to the table, and I'm sure he is too, because Titans fans, media, we've all kind of doubted him a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Especially when we didn't have Julio.
Yeah, when we didn't have Julio, I was a little worried about that one. But now, like I said last week, getting him into that slot where he can thrive, I think it'll be big for our offense as well.
You ain't lying, man. So we got Michael Pruitt back. During the offseason, he went out and did his thing, tried out for a couple teams, but now he's back with us, and we brought him back for a reason. You know what I'm saying? And in the past, we can't lie. We go check the numbers. But I know you watch games, and Michael Pruitt, man, has made some big catches for us, man. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? In the red zone, what have you, and then just whenever his number was called, going through progressions or whatever Tannehill was doing, like he's got some history with us. His resume is better than you can say it's negative. You know what I'm saying? It's more positive than you can say it's negative. And I think bringing him back into this tight end group, so we don't have a Kelsey on our team. We know we don't have a Kittle, so it's got to be tight end by committee. And I love the fact that we brought him in. I love the fact, especially because the respect that Mike Vrabel has for him, that stems from their time in Houston together. I just feel like that genuine connection and love for football is just gonna show, continue to show. And however long he's here with us, I know he's gonna do positive things for us, man. It just gives us another option. Perfect timing. I know folks who aren't Titans fans don't know who Michael Pruitt is.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? But we do, and we know that he can be a factor. Can you agree to that?
Absolutely. I don't have anything negative to say about Pruitt, man. He's made some big catches, for us over the last couple of years, and done some good things. So I think having him in that locker room is a positive thing. I don't know that he'll play a whole lot, but when he does,
right,
I wouldn't be surprised for him to make a big third down catch or something.
And that's the thing. And that's the thing. I feel like I was watching him in the pressers yesterday, and just in the past, he's been with us for at least 3-4 years now. He's just like always positive dude. You know what I'm saying? Like he's always doing positive things. He's not doing things that are hurting the team, and he's cool with that role. He's relishing in that. So,
well, sometimes you don't need those guys that are flashy that are going to go out and have 10 catches, 100 yards, 3 touchdowns. You just need a guy who's going to move the chains, or a guy who can make that big catch in the red zone, and that's what he does.
Yep.
He's a big body target. He's a guy that's sure-handed. He's not going to drop anything. So yeah, no, he's a solid guy. I'm glad we brought him back.
All right, who do you think is going to excel in our wide receiving core tomorrow?
Oh man, I think the easy answer is AJ Brown.
AJ Brown, okay.
I think that's the easy answer. But him and DK have a lot of history, and it, in some ways it's going to be fun to watch the two of them go back and forth with each other. They're brothers. They love each other. They went to college together, and we all know that story. So
brothers compete, brothers fight. Brothers.
I think it's fun to watch them, but I think Julio for me is still the guy that you're going to have to prepare for. He had a really bad week last week. I know Vrabel called him out over the penalty. In Julio's presser, he had made a comment about just kind of being taken out of the game early, and he didn't respond well. I think for him it was personal. Mm-hmm. He made a lot of mistakes. He dropped a couple passes like we talked about, and he acknowledged that as well. A guy like Julio, future Hall of Famer, he's pissed off, and he's going to come out with some fire tomorrow. And I would fully expect Julio to have a big game. I would think that he's going to be the go-to. I think it's going to be part of the game plan. I think Tannehill's going to look to him early. I think he's going to look to him often. Brown's still going to get his. Mm-hmm. And we talked a lot about DK and Lockett, on their side. I think on our side still, for teams to have to match up against both of them is still really rough. And for Seattle, they're going to have to figure out how are they going to match up against Brown and Julio. Mm-hmm. So I think more attention will be paid to Brown, which will open up things for Julio.
Right.
So I would expect Julio tomorrow to I think he's going to score. And definitely approach 100 yards, if not get over 100 yards. I think he's going to have a big game.
Okay. I would say that they're going to prepare for us coming at them in multiple ways. I don't think they're going to prepare for one person. But I do think I'm going to go with the easy answer. I'm going to go with AJ Brown. AJ Brown is just, like I said, he's a momentum changer. Anytime he touches the ball, he's gonna do something positive for you. As I'm talking about with other players, like he's just one of them guys that is not gonna go out there and make you look bad or make himself look bad. He's just, man, dude. Like I said, if you hit him on a slant route, man, dude, he makes 1 to 2 people miss, or he can shed tackles and beat him just straight with foot speed, dude. He has such great game speed as he builds up, and that's what makes him so explosive. We saw him in that catch he made against the Texans, which set us up for that field goal. Man, did you see how, like, I don't know if you remember or not, but did you see how he started off running and he just progressively just got faster and faster? And
Oh yeah. And what's funny about Brown is most guys can even a guy like Julio, he's more of a deep ball threat. Not that he can't catch those short routes and things like that, but his game is more of that big body down the field kind of guy. Brown can do both, and that's really rare. Right. Brown can go 15 yards on and out and make those intermediate throws. He can blow by you and go deep, but then he, like we said, he takes that slant to the house. It's very rare that you find a receiver, I think, with that skill set that can do all of those different things. Yes. Most guys are usually one or the other, and he does them all. So, with Brown, it's been really impressive to see what he's been able to do in the NFL since we drafted him.
Man. As I said before, he's just so dynamic, and you really can't game plan around to try and stop one person. It just, as I said, with our defense, we cannot go one-on-one. Double. We can't double. We have to win our one-on-one matchups. So, the guys are going to be out there playing their man. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to be able to game plan a situation where, they're showing looks and showing disguises. They're going to have to be honest, right? They're going to have to be lined up and matched up with all players, because we got options out there, and we all know Tannehill likes to spread the ball around. We all know currently where his comfortability is, and that's with some of the guys that don't have big names. You know what I'm saying? So it's gonna take a little bit of time, but AJ Brown does have that connection with Tannehill, and that's his guy tomorrow. That's the guy I feel like is gonna put up some big numbers.
Well, the thing with Julio too, obviously we know what Julio is. We've seen him do it in Atlanta for a decade now. But with Julio, I think, teams might take a prove me kind of approach to it, prove it to me, because he hasn't had that time with Tannehill yet. I think you're not going to see as much attention paid to Julio as we're normally used to seeing until they get out and prove that they have that connection, until he comes out and makes a couple big plays. Last week his game was so awful that man, like I can't even remember seeing a game that bad for Julio before. So, with that in mind, I would look at that and maybe you do put more focus on Brown. And if Julio gets you one or twice, you can adjust. I think, like you said, you game plan for it, but I don't know that you necessarily plan for it until they prove it.
Yeah. And I'm not so much worried about Seattle's secondary. So I'm going to go ahead and just shift over real quick to Seattle's defense, and then we'll start to wrap things up a little bit for the night. But I'm not so much worried about their secondary, like with their cornerbacks, man. But they have a guy in Jamal Adams. He's not necessarily your pick artist, man. He's a sack artist, and he's able to be able to be in a disguise mode, be stealthy. He's able just to make things happen, and that right there, him being that extra disguise rusher, is going to put pressure on Tannehill, and which could open up that secondary to be successful when you got Tannehill, rushing the ball out of there, especially with that way our offense performed last week. So it's really so much for me is Jamal Adams is the most scariest person on the Seattle Seahawks defense.
I would agree, but Wagner, man, he worries me every time we got to play them. I know we don't play him very often, but Wagner is special, man. He's still, man, if he's not the best linebacker in the league, he's right under Darius Leonard in Indy. Wagner is special. He just does it all, man, and he's a guy that he 15, 16 tackles, a couple forced fumble a game or whatever. He's definitely a scary kind of player. Adams, man, he's the run stuffer. He's the guy that, like you said, he's going to come on those delayed blitzes where you don't even see him coming. So between those two guys, I don't know that either one of them is more scary to me over the other. I think they're both superstars. They both have obviously very different games because they're in different positions. So I think, those two guys collectively make up a pretty scary unit for them.
Man, Jamal Adams is like a Ronnie Lott.
Yeah, he hits hard too.
Man, and that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm so scared of him. I'm with you. Wagner's a beast, and and I kind of had to argue with myself internally before I strategically thought about my answer for that. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I definitely had an internal battle about that. But Jamal Adams, man, he's a special kind of player, man. He's always making big plays, and he's just, like I say, he's one of those guys that are always doing positive things for his team. And that right there, the guy that's available, making the least mistakes, but making so much progress and being able to be an asset rather than a liability to your football team. That's what makes a great player.
Yeah, he reminds me a lot of Troy Polamalu back in the day. Now, Polamalu obviously had a lot of interceptions. That's not his game, but he could stuff the run, man. And, we saw a lot of the sacks that he had in his career and the way that he would fly through the offensive line. And Adams reminds me a lot of that style of play. Obviously not the interceptions to back it up, but he does a lot of things like that, in the run game and getting after the quarterback that Polamalu used to do. And that's what makes him so scary, man. Teams feared Polamalu. You always knew what he was.
Yeah, and he was doing dynamic things, jumping over your offensive line. Man, he was definitely a dynamic player. I wish we could have had a Troy Polamalu on our team.
Yeah, right.
So your most concerned your concerned player on the Seattle Seahawks defensive roster is Wagner, and mine is Adams. Who do you feel? Who do you feel that Shane Bowen, or excuse me, Todd Downing, is trying to prepare against? I know it's a hypothetical question, but just kind of put your mind in the master.
You have to know where those two guys are, Adams and Wagner. Those are your guys. Those are your areas of concern. Not that Seattle doesn't have other impact players, but those are your two big guys. Wagner is the captain of that defense, and he leads by example. He knows where everybody should be. He knows when to audible and all that kind of stuff. So I really you make sure you know where he is. So that's where I would put a lot of focus, is just making sure you know where he is and where he's lined up, what he's doing. You don't want to run at him. He's not. I mean, even Derrick Henry isn't running over Bobby Wagner. That's just not going to happen. So I wouldn't run at him a whole lot. I certainly wouldn't throw in his direction a ton if he's hanging out over the middle, those kinds of things. So that would be my biggest concern if I was Bowen. But Adams, again, like you said, man, he's also a concern. And that's the problem, when you have two superstar players on the same team, especially when they're at different positions.
Right.
You have two different groups of players, linebackers and secondary, where you have to worry about a specific individual that much because of the impact that they have on a game. That can be a problem.
Thanks.
So, I think you need to make sure you locate both of those guys for the entirety of the game. Make sure you know where they're at. And hopefully you can limit the impact that they're able to have.
For sure. I mean, on the surface, bro, I know like Derrick Henry, Chris Carson are, apples to oranges in comparison. But at the end of the day, man, overall, I think this is a good matchup. I feel like it's a good matchup. And it's both teams are going to have to be honest, and it's going to come down to who makes the least mistakes and who's able to capitalize on those mistakes that the opponent makes. Overall, man, I feel it's not going to be a walk in the park for neither team. It's going to be a dogfight. Vegas is saying, that we're a 6.5-point underdog, but
that's a lot, even by Vegas standards.
It is a lot, man. But let's go ahead and just get to the predictions portion of the game, man. Let's go and be real, man. It's going to be real with it. Going to give a score. Going to give an outcome of the game, man. What's going to be the final score tomorrow? Who's going to win?
You know what? Before today, honestly, I thought Seattle was going to win this game. I think, for me, our defense was too big of a question mark. Mm-hmm. But then I saw an interesting stat. And I'm going to hit you with this because this is funny to me. Since 2019, Tennessee is 7-0 the week after losing a game by 10 or more points. Of those 7 wins, 4 of them have been on the road. Mm-hmm. That was kind of eye-opening to me. I had no idea. Mm-hmm. Obviously last week we got blown out by whatever it was, 25. So that kind of changed my opinion a little bit because Vrabel seems to know how to get these guys to bounce back. And that's 100% coaching. Obviously they got to go out and play, but Vrabel has this way of making these guys come together after getting blown out.
Right.
And so with that in mind, I think tomorrow we're going to steal one. I think it's going to be a close game. Okay. It may not be as high scoring as maybe we think. I could see something like 27-24.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with 28-24. Just in hopes that we're not going to have to kick any field goals because we talked about that earlier.
Right. Man, I definitely hope you're not kicking no field goals. All extra points tomorrow, guys.
Right.
All extra points. Oh man, hey, so I love the fact that because I know where you were leaning prior to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know what you were leaning to prior to today. And the fact that you did your research, man, and I love that that you took an analytical approach, look at the stats, and to be able to make your decision. I love that. And they're also wearing icy white jersey tomorrow. So we're going icy white everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what
those uniforms are so slick.
Yeah, man, so slick. And they're gonna get dirty tomorrow too. You know what I'm saying? Like, so we're gonna have to get rough, tough, and dirty tomorrow. But I'm not sure what the stat is on when we wear the icy whites. But I know that we win more than we lose when we wear those. But I think I'm never gonna bet against my Titans. That's just me. I'm never gonna bet against them. But I'm gonna go ahead and say that I'm gonna say it's gonna be 35 Titans, Seattle 31.
Yeah, I could see it. I just think with the weather, like you were saying, it might be a little bit lower scoring than what we might think. But on the other side of that, nothing surprises me in the NFL these days.
Yeah. Nothing. You definitely have to just be prepared for anything in the NFL, man. Anything, any given Sunday, bro.
I expect it to be a good game. I think both teams are going to come out. It's going to go back and forth, and really, I think the team that has the ball last is probably going to win.
Yeah. So Seattle wins. They're winning this series right now between like the Tennessee Titans organization intertwined with the Oilers. The series is 10-7. So we're not too far behind the 8 ball in that situation, and I'm not sure how important it is to us anyway. But I know.
Last time we played them, we got them. So
we definitely got them. Yeah, we definitely got them. Absolutely. So
that was a shock too that year. I remember.
It definitely was a shock because we lost to the Rams that year. We lost to the Cardinals, and then.
Well, Seattle was still. Yeah. They were still like right in the middle of their rise or whatever. They were, that was 4 years ago. They were still a top team in the NFL.
Yeah, but Blaine Gabbert though, man.
yeah. Well, I'm saying, like everybody thought we were getting blown out, and so now, it's the Derrick Henry show.
Yep, Derrick Henry show, man. Hey, so just to jump back to, because I asked you if you thought he was going to get over 100 yards tomorrow. He's our X factor in tomorrow's game. He's going to have 150 plus. 2 touchdowns, because he got to make up. He got to make up for last week him not scoring. You know what I'm saying? So he's got to get 2 touchdowns. I'm gonna say he's getting 154 yards, 27 carries. I'm reaching now. 2 touchdowns.
Hey, you know what? For my fantasy team, I hope you're right.
Right.
had to take him this year, and that last week didn't help me at all. So I hope you're right.
Right, man. Hey, dude. Hey, it's been a blast, man. It's been a good time kicking it with you on the show, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good dialogue. We're almost like an hour and a half in. I didn't even realize we went that far deep into the segment. So, folks, we appreciate you tuning in. Hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Share the videos with your family and friends. In the comments, thank Mark for coming on the show these past 2 weeks here and just bringing great energy and just bringing great dialogue and that true passion that we have for the Tennessee Titans, man. Because we know a fake Titans fan when we see one, right?
Considering there's not that many out there. Yeah, we know.
Right, man. I love to call fake Titans fans out because I see them a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like I just see guys that just like try to create a conversation. They want to be cool with you. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm like, hey, stiff arm, Heisman. You know what I'm saying? But hey, man, I hope you have a blessed rest of your evening. I'm gonna talk to you tomorrow throughout the game.
Yes, sir.
And shout out to D Weez right now. D Weez is in a pool tournament right now. D Weez is a pool guru. So if anybody wants to challenge D Weez to a pool match, go ahead and set it up in the comment section. But definitely hit that like button, y'all. It's Titan Gang or Don't Bang. The motto's never changed. It is what it is. Titans get the dub tomorrow. We get 1-1 and we move on to week 3. We'll see you guys for the post-game show. It might be directly after the game. We'll see how things work out. It might be in the evening, it might be Monday, but you're definitely gonna get a post-game show. I know the pre-game show was late. But hey, better late than never, right, Mark?
We'll have to catch y'all after that win tomorrow.
Yeah, catch you after that dub. We're going to get them dubs, man. like Tupac hanging out the window.
That's right.
All right, y'all. We love y'all, man. Have a blessed night.
Right.